Hey everyone, well, we're back again, and hopefully we're going to do a video here that's going to be of some assistance to people. Um, I've been getting a lot of people lately who have been getting a hold of me, and they're experiencing a lot of traveling or experiencing in different timelines and dimensions. And they're having experiences and encounters with other beings and entities, and this is becoming almost a experience that pretty much everyone who is at a certain level of spiritual awakening is having happen to them right now. Now somebody's going to ask me, well, what level is that? The level that most of these people would be at would be where they are not locked in anymore to hanging on to old belief systems. They probably would have started creating new ones as their consciousness changed and evolved, because belief systems are necessary as long as you're going to be in three-dimensional reality to anchor you here and your physical body in some sort of stable condition. That's very important to remember that, okay? So, the other thing that is taking place at this point is a lot of people are having the situation where, as they've reached this level of spiritual maturity, as I like to call it, and they've become somewhat stable and they're open to evolving and changing, and they no longer, feel the need to have to defend their belief system or attack someone else for theirs in that particular situation. What's happening is they begin to have these experiences of different timelines and dimensions. Now, one of the things that's happening here, and I know a lot of people have discussed this with me, that sometimes when they're experiencing these different timelines and dimensions, and this can happen, and usually does happen during these so-called twin flame soulmate connections, where the energies of the two people has really catapulted them both into higher states of consciousness. And initially, a lot of the experience they may have may be together, but then after a while, as you become, how am I going to put this? As you become a bit more mature and you realize that everything that's happening to you is not totally dependent upon your twin flame or the one or the soulmate being the catalyst or the recipient or whatever else that's causing it. It is simply you having reached a state of consciousness where you're ready to move on. Now, the issue that's coming up is a lot of people, when they've been getting a hold of me, have been talking with me, and they're very kind of distraught, or they're kind of emotional over the experience, because some of these timelines and dimensions, and I want to mention this diplomatically, I hope, without stepping on anybody's toes here too much. I think we all need to start understanding this, that we live in a physical reality that's three-dimensional, that is limited in its perspective. Most people at this particular point on time, not all, but most people, not all, remember that. Most people you see in a spiritual community, especially in the twin flame or the soulmate community or the ascension partners type of situation, that's all they really want to do, to be honest, all right? They just want to be with that other person. They just want to be in a relationship. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for relationships, but not in their present form. It is the present form of relationship that is producing our society and all of its patterns and innuendos that we're going through at this particular point in time. And what we're going through at this particular point in time, just to add a little flavor to the whole of the thing, is in some of my journeying recently, it's been made very, very clear to me that right now, I believe it's about 75 years after the fact, we are now through 2 or 3 generations of people, my generation, going back into the 50s and 40s and 30s generation, we are now experiencing the trauma or the release of the trauma from the Second World War and from some of the wars in between and the fighting that's going on. Yours, who we all pay respects and tributes to for their service and sacrifices that they've made, have come home in many cases, and they have been severely traumatized beyond comprehension and understanding at a particular point in time. And a lot of them got into relationships and produced children, and they were passed on the trauma from the parents. And this is not something that was done deliberately, it just happened, that's the way it is. And what we're doing now is we're releasing that trauma. And this is being released through the dream state. And this trauma, if I can put it that way, has carried over and has actually affected many people in different timelines and dimensions. So what would happen is, at this point, a lot of people are working off or working through or cleansing and purging right now, today, a lot of their parental influences. For example, and I'll use myself as an example. My mother, bless her soul, was in London, England, when the bombing took place during the Second World War. And she spent half of her life in bomb shelters and under tables and whatnot. I was born in that kind of environment. And from a little bit of research, I also found out they weren't married when I got born. And I also found out with a little Scooby-Dooing through timelines, if you will, that when I was conceived, my father was drunk. And he had just gotten back from someplace after being in a major battle. So obviously I've incorporated within myself the templates of my mother and my father. And most of the soldiers from the Second World War, and probably the first also, all suffered from PSTD, which is very common nowadays. And I can assure you there was no treatment that my father ever received for his PSTD. And I'm sure there are many other fathers out there who never received any treatment for PSTD, and they were able to live possibly what may be considered a normal life, relatively speaking. But all of that trauma has been passed on through the children. And my father was one holy terror during my childhood and teenage years. And what's happening now, at this age now, I'm going through my mother's reaction to her traumas, which were unknown panic attacks, anxiety, depression that comes out of nowhere for no apparent reason and overwhelms me. And I didn't understand what was going on for a long period of time because I'm saying to myself, okay, I've got a fully active heart center. I'm going through Kundalini awakening at the same time. I've acquired an immense amount of knowledge about inner growth, spiritual growth, And I had to put it all together as to why this is happening, because what it's doing is it is preventing me from evolving further until all of that trauma and issue and stuff is dealt with. Now, I'm sure I'm not alone in this particular situation. There are many others out there, and you could be second generation, say from your grandfather, and you're experiencing similar things. What is happening is we're on the cusp. We're on the cusp here. Pay attention. Of a major shift in consciousness coming up in the next year. How do I know this? I have friends in high places, if you will. I'm just kidding. You've got the same friends I do. I just use them probably a little bit more efficiently than a lot of you do. And what's happening is these are being manifest now because they must be gotten out of the body. But what body? These traumas that I'm speaking of, that a lot of people are having right now. I don't know how many people I've spoken to in the last little while, especially in the spiritual community, who have said that they're experiencing anxiety and panic attacks and depression, periodically bouts of that and back and forth. And the other thing, sleep. They want to sleep lots. And they're tired. And what's happening is the big shift is about to take place very soon, a shift in consciousness. So what's happening is we're discarding from the emotional body. Now I want to pay attention to this part. The emotional body that we have been experiencing physical reality in at this time is being remodeled. Because the emotional body of most people is quite large, it's a containment field for pain, suffering, trauma. It also has a good side to it, passion and all of that kind of stuff, creativity, can all be part of the emotional body. And all of our concepts of love, relationship, and sexuality, and you've heard me talk about this before, I don't know if it ever sinks into a lot of you at that point, has been based on those old premises, traumas, and input generations preceding us. So what's happening now is we are acting and reacting physically into consciousness those traumas that don't even belong to us, they belong to other people. So we're processing them. As we process them and manifest them, what's taking place is the emotional body, which is the receptacle of these trauma imprints, are going to be loosened up and they're going to be diffused. For what purpose? One, I want to mention this to you. Some of you have heard me mention before that we are moving into a 12 chakra system. And I don't care if you just want to talk about your twin flame, and you just want to be with your twin flame, you just want to curl up with your twin flame, you don't want to do anything else, but just be with your twin flame, that's all you really care about. That's fine and good, but you're still going to go through the process anyway. Like it or not, you're going to go through it. What I'm trying to do is to inform people who are blinded by this obsession of love, blinded by this obsession of love for another person, to perhaps focus a little bit of that love that you're obsessed with another person on yourself, and do what I've learned to do. And this happened just recently, where I actually had, I'm going to call them, for lack of better expressions, all of the symptoms of flu. Sore joints, achy back, sore this, sore that, sore throat, headaches, all kinds of stuff, even to the point where I couldn't sleep one night for almost 24, I couldn't sleep a whole night for 24 hours because I couldn't get this thing turned off. It wouldn't turn off. It just kept going and going and going. And I'm having visions of talking to dead people that I didn't know. And I have visions of actually talking to dead people that I know are dead because they're old friends of mine. And I know they're dead because I checked. I actually went and looked to see some of these friends who I haven't seen in 30, 40 years. and they're dead. And I'm talking to them, I'm saying, well, what the hell is going on? And at the same time, here, this is really surprising. As much as I was feeling all of this turmoil and chaos and panic and fear, even, I'm not ashamed to admit it, feeling fear, the heart center in my chest was huge. And I realized something, that the heart center was actually recycling the energy that was being dispelled or loosened up from the emotional body. And the one question that I had the whole time is, for what bloody purpose could all of this be happening that pertains to my life now? Why is this all happening to my life now? Why am I dealing with my mom's shit? Why am I dealing with my dad's shit? They gifted me with this stuff, and I didn't even see it coming. But it's been coming gradually over the last few years, and finally it just came to a head in the last little while. And I'll tell you why. Everyone who's awake by now probably knows and heard about the 12 chakra system. And I've known about the 12 chakra system for almost 40 years. And as a matter of fact, I'm the first person to put any information out on the internet. And I'm also the person who's got all of the information on the meridian system in the etheric body, which nobody else has done yet, to my knowledge. So I came loaded with some help for some oddball reason. Don't know why, but I do. This 12 chakra system is the portals or the gateways to traveling to different dimensions, timelines, and realities. And what's going to happen is we are not going to be allowed to go into these dimensions and timelines any further than what we are now until we do something. That is, cleanse and purge the emotional body of all of the traumas, hurts, pains, fears, and illogical belief systems that are containment fields for three-dimensional reality. In other words, we're not going to go into our multidimensional self and experience totally in pure consciousness and freedom our state of consciousness, taking the old state with us, three-dimensional. Three-dimensional consciousness is very limited, all right? And because it's limited, the belief systems that contain us here by many people are going to be defended. And this is where I find a really big problem in the twin flame community. There are a lot of belief systems that people have been dispensing and putting out that the whole of the twin flame experience is about nothing more than being with the one. And that's not what it's about at all. It's all about being with the one, which is you. That's what it's about. So if anyone out there has any vision at all, I ask you to ask yourself this question. Have you ever sat down, any of you who are so much into the one in the relationship and that's all you really want? And I get where you're coming from, I understand, because you're in a belief system and that's who you are. I respect that. But I want you to think about this and ask yourself a question. And I'm sure that anybody who is going to watch this video is a very intelligent person and they're relatively speaking awake. So ask yourself this question. If you're really oriented towards a relationship with someone, nothing wrong with that. Ask yourself this question. Is that the only reason that you came here in this particular lifetime? Just to be in a relationship? Is that all you're here for? Ask yourself that question. Ask yourself right now. Is that all I came in this particular lifeline? Because that's all I want to do is just be in a relationship with the one. I just want to be with the one forever and eternity. I want to get together and I want to live with the one. I want to have the one's baby or children, or vice versa, whatever. And that's all I really want to do. That's going to fulfill me. That's going to make me happy. And I'll be happy for the rest of my life and eternity if I'm with the one. Ask yourself that question. And tell me how you feel when you've thought about it for a moment. And then realize how locked in you've become to a belief system. Now again, I emphasize, I'm not against relationships at all. I'm all for them, but not in their present format and not in the present containment field that they are. So what does this have to do with timelines and dimensions? If you have locked yourself into a particular belief system, that means that you can't go, or will never be allowed, to go into your essence selves, experience different timelines and realities without dragging a lot of your debris. How many of you have gone into a different timeline and had a horrific experience? You got very emotional and very distraught while you were there. I'll bet you there are thousands of you that have gone into a different timeline or a different dimension, and you were overrun with your own emotions and feelings, especially when you woke up afterward. It scared the living bejesus out of you. Why? Because the emotional body, and with all of your traumas and belief systems that were in there, couldn't digest and assimilate what you experienced in a different timeline or dimension. Because our three-dimensional emotional brain, and we do have an emotional brain if you want to put it that way, can't handle that. So what has to happen? We have to make a transition. That transition means that all of the information download that's in the emotional body has to come up to the heart center and be expressed and assimilated, recycled, purified, whatever term you want to use. And then it has to be run back through the system. Now, whether anybody knows it or not, there are going to be quite a few people on this planet and in the spiritual community who are going to actually do full ascension. And that means moving into, imagine you're experiencing a different timeline, all right? Well, hear this. Pay attention now. Soon, instead of just going there in the dream state or in a meditative state, you're going to go there fully awake and conscious, and the body's going to go with you. And there are a few of you out there who are already doing this sporadically and at random. And I can tell you one thing, if you're still dealing with traumas from the emotional body, it probably scared the living crap right out of you. We need to understand more and more, even though we're all caught up in the euphoria of twin flame and ascension and love and, etheric sex and all of that crap. We need to understand we're evolving. We don't have a choice here. We're going to do it whether we like it or not. What I'm trying to do is to give some understanding and leave out all of the fluff and the slick marketing that some of these twin flames are doing up on YouTube, and help people actually understand. And a lot of people are not going to like what I have to say. And I get it. And I'm okay with that type of scenario. So as we go through this cleansing and purging that we're doing right now, we'll be able to make this transition fully, and we'll be able to move into these different timelines and dimensions, and we don't take the emotional content of the containment field of three-dimensional reality with us, because it no longer exists, because we don't function. The physical three-dimensional reality is an emotional experience. You cannot take the emotional knowledge and the emotional templating with you into different timelines and dimensions that are accessible through the 12 chakra system. This is why we've had the magnificent gift of the heart center chakra take place, to expedite that process. And in many cases, people are going to say, oh no, I don't really care about all of the shit you're talking about. I don't really care. Right now, all I want to do is be with the one. Go ahead, just be with the one. But I'm going to tell you something. If you've been in the bubble love phase with the one already, here it comes. Pay attention to this part, folks. If you've been in the bubble love phase with the one already, you've already experienced the state of consciousness that is required to travel through dimension to dimension to different realities. And you got to experience it in the right state of consciousness, in the right state of mind, and the right state of being. And one thing that was missing when you were in the bubble love phase, one thing that was missing was all of the emotional shit and debris that comes up afterward, when the heing and sheing and the hissy-fitting and the fighting and all of the childlike immaturity is displayed by the two people in the twin flame connection. Are you with me on this point? Because some say, well, I'm not going to even pay attention to what he said, not making any sense. Oh, yes, I'm making sense like you wouldn't believe. I'm giving you fair warning of what you can expect down the road. And if anyone thinks they're just going to turn their head and run away and stick their head in the sand, not going to happen. If you experience even that bubble of situation by yourself, that's the state of consciousness that is going to be perennial in us. And in that perennial state of bubble of consciousness, if you will, we will be able to ascend and take the body into different timelines and dimensions, because that bubble of phase of consciousness, if you can remember it, didn't contain all of the emotional debris and traumas and whatever else. So you got a sample, you got a template, download it in you, because we need something to see, to taste, to touch at a higher level. So we've been given it. And what happens now is now the process kicks in the etheric body, the mental body, the emotional body, the sheath bodies, and the chakra system to get us there. And we don't have a choice. We're going to go there anyway. So it behooves me to remind some of you, you better start paying attention to some of the information that I'm giving. And I know there's a few others that are doing it also. Very few who are giving the appropriate information for exactly what is happening on the planet right now. And there are too many, far too many, who are so locked into the 3D consciousness concept of twin flame soulmates and relationships and love. What I'm saying is, as we move and shift into this higher state of consciousness, imagine what it will be like in a relationship. What it will be like a relationship forming between two individuals by choice and done freely, as they create their own relationship based on that higher state of consciousness that exists in three-dimensional reality, but actually lives in different timelines and dimensions simultaneously at the same time. Do you get any idea what I'm talking about here, folks? Do you know what the reward is that's coming? What potentially is there? I've been able to smell this coming for decades, 2 or 3 in fact. And this is what's happening right now, today. So the part that manifesting for a lot of people is exactly that. The bubble love state of consciousness that literally thousands and thousands and thousands of you have experienced is the state of consciousness we're all going to. And if you are in the belief system and locked into it, where all you care about is just being with the one, you're still going to go through the same process and the same shift as everybody else is, because it's already started. You don't have any choice. And I'm not the only teacher, if I may call myself that has ever said this. It's survival. It's that simple. You're going through a process, you don't have a choice. The choice you do have to make is, do you want to make it easier? Or do you want to stomp your little feet, have a temper tantrum, get your panties all in a knot, and say, I don't want to do that. I just want to do what I want to do. Well, actually, in fact, you are doing what you want to do in the bubble up phase. That's what you wanted. You got it, you see. So I'm sure probably right about now you had something to think about a little bit anyway. Oh, and a couple of things I want to mention before I let the video go here, before half of you fall asleep and leave anyway. I'm now going to be taking and doing interviews for people who may be interested in my meridian energetics healing modality, the best damn modality on the planet right now and continuing to evolve. And I'll be doing this in January. If you need to take a look at more information for it, you can find that at meridianenergetics.com. And a couple of things I'm looking for just to shorten the list as I interview people. And I don't take you just because you pay me my fee. I have requirements. And those requirements are, one, you interview me, I interview you. We do this on Skype. And I like to find people who have a big heart and want to be of service to people. And they also have a natural gift or a talent that people seem to be drawn toward them and looking for their help and assistance. And I don't care if you've got any training at all. As a matter of fact, if you've got no training, even better. The worst thing to do is to train somebody who's already been trained, because you usually got to untrain them to train them, kind of deal. The other thing that I wanted to mention is this. Oh, and if you're interested in that, you can send a request to reunion@twinflames.ca. That's the email. And Nicole or Shirley can set up an interview for you. The other thing is this that I wanted to mention is a while back I did make mention of, and I've done it a few times, and I got a very positive response about doing meditations. Apparently a lot of you liked the type of meditation that I do. And I am going to be doing meditation groups online in January, probably toward the end of January. And I'm going to do them in the format that I used to do when I did meditation classes quite a few years ago. Is usually I'll do a topic or a theme first, and then actually lead a meditation pertaining to the topic or the theme, also combined with some perhaps questions and answer type situation. The fee will be an astronomical amount. It'll be $5 a head. I mean, I'm sure that some of you will have to stop eating for a week to manage that. And, you know, some people will complain, well, I'm broke, I can't pay this week, kind of thing. I'm kidding. And this will be coming up in January. I'll notify everybody on my channel when it's going to happen, and you can take it from there, kind of deal. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll be seeing you again very shortly. Take care.